Self-sabotage does not exist. What you've been calling self-sabotage is actually your brain's way of protecting you. And until you understand that, you're going to end up fighting the same internal battle over and over again and merely exhausting yourself. My name is Tanya Adams. I'm a neuroscience based coach and the founder of the Freedom Collective, where I teach the Freedom Success Formula. The Freedom Success Formula is underpinned by neuroscience and mindset rewiring, with skills, strategies, systems, and habits overlaid, and all supported by a beautiful community. And today, I'm going to share with you exactly why self sabotage is a lie, what's actually happening in your brain, and I'm going to give you a 4-step process on how to break that cycle for good. And then stay until the end because I'm going to share with you exactly how you can go deeper with this work if that's something that you're interested in. What exactly is so called self sabotage? When people use the word self sabotage, they're referring to things like procrastination or task avoidance or even simply quitting right before they have a breakthrough. And it can often look like laziness or fear. It most definitely feels irrational. We know what to do, we just don't do it. And here's the truth: your brain is not the enemy. Your brain's first job is to keep you safe. And one of the ways in which it does that is to keep you in alignment with your pre existing current identity. What does this mean? Well, very simply, it means that you do not have a self sabotage problem. You have an identity alignment problem, and that is fixable. Inside my identity matrix framework, I explain how your behavior is driven by the agreements you've made about who you are, what you deserve, and what's possible for you. And these agreements in turn shape your perception, your attention, and your actions. And because your brain prefers congruence, what ultimately happens is your behavior accords with the agreements, and this is what shapes your identity over time. And when your current identity clashes with a bigger future identity that you're growing into, you feel something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is that discomfort that you get, and it signals risk to the amygdala. So the amygdala flares, and your brain is going to pull you back into the known version of you. It feels like you're undermining yourself. However, in reality, your protection team is protecting your identity. It's keeping you in the known and safe zone. Imagine, for example, that you make a decision to put up your prices or pitch to a premium client. Your current identity is mid tier, not premium, and that creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain is going to flood you once the amygdala signals and tags this as dangerous. Your brain is going to flood you with all sorts of distractions, small urgent tasks, cravings, the need to suddenly start tidying up, any inbox loops. It will do anything to restore you to the familiar and known lane that you are normally operating in. And this behavior is not random. It's a protective mechanism to keep you in alignment with who you understand yourself to be. Every single time you accuse yourself of self sabotage, you're labeling your own protection team as the enemy. So, what do you need to know here? Well, the first thing is that the brain is not especially interested in your version of what success looks like. The brain wants to work with you. You have to just figure out how to work with the brain and not against it. And I promised you a 4-step process for how to break the so-called self-sabotage, which we now know as self-protection cycle. Step 1. The first step is to notice what's happening and name it for what it is. This is simply identity protection. It's not failure. This removes shame and it regulates the nervous system back to its normal, stable setting. A brain that's flooded with shame is not going to learn, and you will not invoke the neuroplasticity required to create a new identity. So this has to be the first step. Reset your nervous system, name it just as protection team, and move forward. Step 2 then is to update the previous agreement. Start using language for the new future version of you. In other words, you might say, I serve premium clients who value my work and always pay on time. Write that down in your journal and rehearse it every morning when you do your journaling, and then pair it with a micro action that confirms to your brain that you are actually that identity. What kind of a micro action? Well, it's got to be something that's small, something that your brain can't really perceive as too much of a risk. For example, maybe you just send one DM, or you write the subject header of an email, or you just put the title on the pitch to your premium client. This builds a store of evidence for the brain that says, oh, this is potentially who we now are going to be now. Then the third step is to reduce the gap. Ultimately, you've got to get that pitch out, though in the beginning, the resistance level is too high inside the brain. And so, the most effective way to do this is to break that big task down into small tasks that are less than 2 minutes. So, break it down into under 2 minute tasks in the beginning, stretch it then to 5 minute tasks as your brain gets used to the new identity. And at the end of each sub action, what's important is to tick it off on a list, acknowledge it as done, and celebrate it. Why? Because that produces the dopamine that's required for two things. One, for neuroplasticity to rewire your identity, but two, you need the dopamine to do the next piece, because for us, a little while at least, every time you move to the next piece, the brain is going to be wary and cautious. And so the dopamine is going to help keep you in momentum. And then step four, and this is really a low impact, simple way to shift your identity in an easy, non taxing way. And that is to change your environment. There's two areas where this is applicable. Change your physical environment. If you typically work on your bed or on your couch, sit yourself at the dining room table. Buy yourself an office chair. Sit at a desk where you can signal to your body and your brain that you are a premium service provider. And the second part is to put yourself in rooms where the new identity is normal for that community. The human brain is socially wired and is naturally tends towards adaptability. So once you are in a crowd where who you are becoming is the normal baseline for that crowd, your whole identity is going to shift in order to be congruent with that identity of that community, which is aligned with the new identity where you are going to. So first, notice it for what it is, remove the shame, update the agreement, do a little micro action to confirm the agreement, and then hang around with people who are like the person you want to become. If you want to stop the cycle, you don't need more willpower. In fact, white knuckling this with willpower is a surefire way to not get it right, because you do not have enough resources to override the brain's drive to keep you safe. What you need is a new identity, and over time, what will happen is that the brain will then protect the new identity as fiercely as it's protecting the old identity. As a neuroscience coach, I am passionate about bringing neuroscience to people in a way that's understandable and practically applicable to their lives and their businesses. So let's look at what's happening in this space through the lens of neuroscience. What is actually going on in your brain? Your brain is, in fact, a prediction engine. It doesn't receive reality as it is, it predicts reality based on what's already been programmed in. It uses your identity and your previous agreements as a filter mechanism to filter reality. This filter is called your reticular activating system. And when your current identity and your agreements, for example, say something like, I am mid-tier, this is where I am positioning myself, your brain will literally delete and ignore anything that contradicts that. So let's say a premium client happens to inbox you. Your brain will dismiss it, disregard it, perhaps even miss the email entirely, because it has filtered that out as not being relevant to your current identity. In fact, what it's busy doing is looking for mid-tier clients, because that's what you have trained it and taught it to do. And so when you want to change what you're having in your outside world, you have to first change the agreement, so that then that changes the perception. And then what happens is that your reticular activating system is going to start focusing in on and allowing in all the information and opportunities that accord with the new identity. Cognitive dissonance, that discomfort that we feel when we're going into a new and uncomfortable space, coaches will tell you to get out of your comfort zone. That's what they're talking about. This cognitive dissonance space is often labeled or by people as given the meaning that I'm not meant to be here. This is not for me. I shouldn't be in this space. And yet, that cognitive dissonance is a good sign. It is a sign that you are growing in the same way that you get sore muscles at gym. This is a signal that you are on the right path. So, your job is to stay the course and move through that dissonance until your brain has rewired itself to the new identity. Because what then happens is that your reticular activating system continues to serve evidence that you are the new identity, and the new identity becomes hardwired into your brain. And as I described, once that happens, your brain will then protect the new identity, not only protect it, but continue to move you forward with ease in the direction of that new identity. The reality is that your brain would rather keep you in a cage or a prison of the known than risk the freedom of the unknown. And so, how to rewire this involves slowly but surely expanding the borders of that known prison until it encompasses the new identity. And that's your doorway through into becoming the future version of yourself. This is exactly why I have built the Freedom Success Formula and the Freedom Collective, because the pillars of the Freedom Success Formula encompass all of this work. And what I came to notice was that entrepreneurs who are wanting to transition into entrepreneurship or grow their businesses were not succeeding just by doing different stuff. And this is why our very first pillar of the Freedom Success Formula is neuroscience and mindset rewiring, so that we will help you to create that new identity, to define it, to start finding the actions and behaviors that align with it. And then over that, we will then implement skills, strategies, systems, and overlay habits. Because if we do it with that step first, and we overlay that onto the old identity, you now know what's going to happen. The brain will reject it and force you back. So we start with identity, we start with neuroscience rewiring, then we overlay the skills, the strategy, the systems, and the habits, and then we package it all in a community. Because as I said in my 4-step process, that's the easiest and quickest shortcut to lifting and leveling up your identity. When these three parts work together, the same mechanism that kept you locked in prison before is what's going to protect your growth and ultimately give you freedom and success in your life and your business. So, your biggest takeaway today is to know that self sabotage is a mislabel. What you feel is identity protection. So just name it, update it, and take action in the direction of the new identity. If you are really ready to stop fighting yourself and start rewriting an identity that creates abundance, freedom, and joy in your life and in your business, then join the waitlist for the next Freedom Sprint. We start on the 1st of October. The waitlist closes on the 30th of September. You'll find the link in the comment down below and in the description. When you join the Freedom Sprint, you'll work with the Freedom Success Formula to shift your identity and build the skills that you need to create the life that you desire and that you deserve. So go add your name, and I will see you on the inside. And again, if you love this, please tell me what you learned today. I respond to every single comment on these channels, and I love to hear what little light bulbs have gone off for you. Remember to subscribe, like the channel, stick your notifications on, and I will see you next Monday.